What is up, everyone? It's your boy Radd 89 here, bringing you another Radd movie review. As today we are going to be talking about Bring Her Back, which is one of the latest A24 films that I checked out. This is brought to you by the same team that gave us Talk to Me, and I was very excited to discuss this film. It's currently streaming on hbomax, so that's where you can check it out and watch it. And today you're going to hear my positives, the negatives, and the rating, and then I'm going to send you all home. So let's get this going. Roll it. So Bring Her Back is the latest film that is brought to you by the same team that gave us Talk to Me, which I was highly invested with that film and loved that film. Talk to Me was one of my favorite films the year it came out. I believe it was like number 9 or 10 the year it came out. I like that film a lot. And in terms of this film, Bring Her Back, I was waiting to see this one because I wanted to see what they were going to do for their sophomore film. And in terms of style, cinematography, vibes, and even the way that they tackled their characters, I think they stick to their guns. And I like their style already, these two creators right here. So I'm highly excited to talk about this film. And this film follows two step siblings who are recently orphaned. They had their father, he passed away and died, and then they end up in a new family with Laura, who is their new stepmom, and then she has a son too as well. But things are not what they seem at this home, and it gets a little weirder and a little weirder, and things are revealed and unveiled. This isn't a completely original story or anything like that, but the way that they tackle this kind of subgenre of horror, I am all for. Another thing I want to discuss is the performances are really good, from the children and everything, even to Laura, who is my favorite character in the film, played by Sally Hawkins, which I don't think she's ever done any horror films before. I think this is clear-cut her first horror movie that she's ever done, and I need her in more horror because the performance that she gives is just so gripping, and it's so like relatable and understanding. And I know that sounds weird, like after you watch the film you're gonna understand what I'm talking about, but she just makes you really feel this character and understand this character. That also has to go with the writing as well, but she just does such a good job performance wise, and the kids elevate the story as well. Like I said, they do great too. So this is a film that has fantastic acting across the board, in my opinion. One other key positive that I love is that the creators and writers of this story are able to have a character in here that is supposed to be our antagonist character, our most villainous character, but the way that they write this character and the way the performance is portrayed on screen, just as a viewer and like as a parent, like you just understand and see this side. And I know it sounds so weird when you watch some film, you're gonna be like, what the fuck, like Radd or Robert, what are you talking about? But like I'm telling you, just the way that this character is executed, you're able to understand and see that side. And I like when films and creators are able to do that, when they're able to take characters that are typically villains or they're the antagonist of your story, but they could at least give you that sliver, that moment, and that shine of seeing their side for just a moment. You understand them. It just makes that character so much more three-dimensional, and it really does hold weight in your story. Another thing is, like I said, the fact that this isn't a completely original story, but the way they tackle this certain subgenre of horror, I like it because they treat it like a mystery. They unveil it. It's kind of like an onion. You just, as the story goes on, you peel back a layer, you peel back another layer, and then another layer. So I like that way that they did that, because doing it with this story, it just kept me invested with every scene. It kept me enthralled, and every time we got kind of, maybe not a twist, but more of a reveal or something that you knew you understood, like it had me gripped until that third act. And by the time we get to the third act, it's just balls to the wall. Like, I loved it because it's not an intense film. This is definitely a slow burn film, so it's not intense all the way through. You have to commit, but once you get to that third act, it's just all your anxiety and everything that's built up, it releases into this crazy third act, and I really think it's fantastic the way this film ends. We also have to talk about the gore moments, where I would say that's not complete horror, this film. This is more of a thriller slash drama type film. I would say that's more leaning that way, but there are gruesome gore moments in here, and what really helps elevate those scenes is the sound design and sound mixing, which specifically there's one scene to deal with a child and a knife, and you're going to know what I'm talking about when you watch this film. And the sound design and sound mixing to that scene, it just really does put you there, and it makes your skin crawl. And like I said, that is probably one of the most gory, gruesome scenes in this film. And one thing you got to give it up to these creators for real is they're not afraid to do harmful things to children in these movies. Like, a lot of the most gruesome stuff and gory stuff that happens to people in Bring Her Back and Talk to Me happens to the children. But we also have some mixed in negatives to talk about, because I did have a lot of fun with this film. There's a lot of praise I just sang this film, but there are a couple mixed in negatives that I want to discuss, so let's get into them right now. And one that is a mixed is kind of more of a selfish thing when I think about it, but it's because I love the character of Laura so much that I wanted more of Sally Hawkins in the movie. I wanted to understand her even more, how she got to the point she did, because she is supposed to be such a character that we, is a villainous type character, but to be able to understand that character and do the things she does, you know what I mean? I just really wanted so much more because the performance was so good. But that, like I said, is more of a selfish thing, and like I said, something that I probably that's more of a personal thing. But leaning into full-on negatives, my main negative with this film is that I've noticed lately with a lot of creators, and that goes for the creators of this film, it's not just them. Osgood Perkins has been known to say this recently, and also Zach Kreger, who just did Weapons. Like, a lot of these creators now and writers, they're doing these things where they write movies and stories and they don't give you all the information, or they leave you hanging with some open-ended fruit type stuff, at the end of the story, and they tell you, and there's interviews I've read with them after the movies come out and the press releases and stuff, where a lot of them say, oh, we left it open-ended because we want the viewer or the audience to kind of determine what that means for themselves, or, kind of come up with their own ideas. And it's like, sometimes I feel like that's a very lazy way of writing. And when I say that, it's, you're the creator. You're the writer. You're the one that has spent months and months creating these characters and writing these characters, and you're telling me you don't know all the answers or all the things that go to your story. Like, you can't even answer a reporter because you're just gonna, like I said, leave it open-ended for us. Like, sometimes, that bothers me. There are films that do it really good, and I understand you don't want everything. There are certain films like that it's best not to have every little nugget and every information thing that you want. But I've noticed recently a lot more creators are leaning into that thing where they're like, let's just leave it open-ended or not give you all the information. And I feel like that is kind of lazy. But overall, my thoughts, I had a great time with this film for real. This is one of my favorite horror films that's come out for 2025. This is one of the films I was waiting for. And like I said, I've gotten real lucky recently with, VHS Halloween and then Bring Her Back, two very ones that I was highly anticipating. And they both pretty much met my expectations, and Bring Her Back exceeded them a bit. So this one I highly, highly recommend. It's currently streaming on HBO Max. And in terms of the Radd rating for Bring Her Back, this one's going to get a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, just a couple mixed in negatives right there, and that's about it. This is one that's going to be very high up on my list when it comes to the end of the year and we start talking about the top 10 favorites for me for horror films of the year. Please like the video. That definitely helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and have that notification bell poked so you're notified anytime I drop a video. But most importantly, you all know what's up. If I can speak, you all know what's up. Have a safe and happy day. Peace out.